I'm thrilled to be hosting the third episode of The Arena, where we're going to take a deep dive into getting to know some of Colorado's foster parents. I was a foster parent for Adams County. An adoptive parent in Adams County, and my husband and I formed Foster Source, a nonprofit that serves foster parents statewide. We love partnering with CDHS. We love partnering with the counties and the CPAs to serve Colorado's foster families. Today, we have four incredible foster families joining us. We have Gwen Munib, who lives in Aurora and fosters for Hope Home. We have April Dwyer, who lives in South Denver, but fosters for Adams County Foster Care. We have John Guthrie, who lives in Golden and fosters for Nightlight Christian Adoptions. And we have Manuel Padilla, who lives in Arvada and fosters for Kairos. Thank you all for joining us. Gwen, let's start with you. Tell me, why did you get involved in foster care? How long have you been involved, and how many children have you had in your home?
Thank you, Renee, for having me today. So again, Gwen Munib. I've been fostering with my husband for almost 5 years. And how we got into foster care was we actually lost a son during birth, and we really felt like God was calling us to help children in need, and being part of the pro-life movement, we knew that we had to be a part of what that looked like instead of just spouting that we were pro-life. So we're really thankful that we felt called by God to do this. And we've had 11 long-term placements, and we've done respite for almost 30 kids.
And that's a long time foster parent at 5 years. April, how about you? Why did you first get involved in foster care? How long have you been fostering, and how many children have been in your care?
Hey, Renee. I got started because I saw a need. I am a nurse in a school building, and I saw a need of a kiddo here. I've been involved for about 18 months, and he's lived with me for 14.
And April, how many children have been in your care?
I've only fostered one, though I've provided respite for another one.
I'm not going to allow you to say only, because that one is huge and super duper important. So thank you. I'm excited to learn more about your journey. John, how about you? How long have you been fostering? What got you involved in foster care, and how many children have been in your care?
My wife and I have been fostering for 6 years. We've had 3 children in our care. We got involved initially because we wanted children, wanted a family, and were given infertility diagnosis, and thought, well, instead of go down the medical pathway there, that's expensive and difficult, why not help kids who are already here and don't have anybody helping them? And we're still feeling that there's kids that need help, and we need more people to help them, and we should be one of those people.
Awesome. I'm excited to hear more. Manuel, tell us about your journey.
I started back in 2018. I started off with Kinship, 7 children at one time for a year and a half. And then I went down to 2, and then I gained 2 more. So I have 4 teenagers at this moment. So about 2.5 going on 3 years. And a total of 9 kids in and out of my home so far.
Wow. Well, welcome to all of you, and thank you for being here. Gwen, let's dive in a little bit to your story. You chose Hope and Home as your placement agency, which is a faith-based agency. Tell us a little bit more about the role that faith has played, not only in your decision to foster, but the role faith plays every day as you continue to parent children from trauma.
Thank you, Renee. So we chose Hope and Home purely for the Christian standpoint, but also for the unique part to that agency that provides support group within the agency. And so we were attaching to families that were going through the trenches with us. We didn't have to go out and try to find that support network. So that was a big deal when it came to respite and just for that support base. We also like being around other people who were coming in on that Christian-based motto. I think the greatest gift in having come at this at the Christian standpoint is continuing to see God work within my husband and I, not just in helping kids from hard places, but also softening us to their parents and what their parents have been through and what they are struggling with, and continuing to see God show up over and over throughout the years, especially in the place that we are now with taking in our very first foster placement, who was a newborn and is now 4 years old with 2 more siblings in our home. So that was the biggest indicator that God was in charge of this.
Sure. And I want to say you had an experience with one of your first placements that prompted you to take a step even further into child welfare and form a nonprofit. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So our second placement that we had arrived in the middle of the night with nothing but a diaper. And my husband is active duty military, and so he's often gone, and I don't have the capabilities of loading up the kids and driving to Walmart at 2 a.m. So that really prompted me to look into the resources that we have, which we do have some on a small scale, and I wanted to help be a part of that. And so I founded Megan's Wish Foundation, which is an honor to a friend of mine who had passed away that always wanted to be a foster parent. And so we provide 24-hour intake bags, and we've expanded a little bit on those services to support foster and kin placements with placements.
Yes, we distribute those bags through Foster Source, and they are awesome. They are not only gender and age specific, but also season specific, which is such a huge, huge deal. Gwen, sometimes when people get into foster care, myself included, we really have no idea what we're in for. What would you say to a family of faith who is considering fostering? What advice would you give them?
That's actually a really good question, because we've definitely had this come up quite a bit. Being a Christian-based agency, I think the disservice is this guilt base of I'm a Christian and God calls me to help orphans and widows, and coming in based on a guilt. I can say I came in to this with my husband very much wanting to do it, feeling very called to it, and there are still at least twice a week I'm like, what am I doing here? I don't know why I keep doing this to myself. And so the one thing that I would say, if I have people that come to me on a Christian-based level and they really feel compelled to do this, I don't want to offer too much information that's going to, really intimidate people, but also want to let them know when they come in with their pie eyes that you have to have a really big centering piece for yourself personally that isn't just the Christian guilt, if you will. So that's always my biggest concern when I talk to people on a Christian level of coming into foster care.
That's super helpful. Thank you, Gwen. April, I'm interested to hear more about your story. You're a school nurse, and there was a child was it at your school who needed placement? Tell us how that happened.
Yes, had a student come and came in, met his guardian at the front door. Student has a medical condition, so therefore I'm very involved in his life, and would see him in the clinic multiple times throughout the day, and he just wiggled into my heart. And it was I'm doing things my way, it's my clinic, it's my nursing license. And of course he didn't like that. And so we set some boundaries. But this kid is so special that I actually approached his GAL, his guardian ad litem, and his caseworker to see if I could be a mentor outside of school. He's just an awesome little kid. He's not little, he's tall. Great kid. And then had a placement that did not work out and ended up coming back to Aurora, if you will, and needed a place to live. And in the meantime, I had gone to foster parent training. And then when he came back to the area, the caseworker said, well, what do you think? And I said, uh, yeah, that'll be good. Okay. It's been one heck of a ride since then.
Do you feel, April? I know I didn't. Do you feel like foster parents ever really feel ready?
Oh, no. No, I think the difference between a foster parent and a bio parent is that the bio parent has 9 months of, oh, we're pregnant. Oh, yay. This is so cool. Let's do this. Let's get this crib. Let's get this bed. And with a foster kiddo, you're like, hey, you're a teenager. Come in. Let's figure this out.
For sure. With your medical background, April, I'm wondering if that you feel like that helped you with some of the mental health struggles that children from trauma have.
To some extent, yes. I think it's just like a carpenter or a plumber, it's the plumber's house that always has the leak. And so even though the knowledge is there, it's really difficult to practice it at work and then to practice it at home as well. So the knowledge is there. It's hard to implement it into my own personal life and into my own family.
That makes sense because we are always trying to have a disconnect between our work life and our home life. And we need that as part of our self-care. So that's a really good point. April, you are part of a large and ever-growing group of single foster parents in Colorado. How have you found support within that community and just within the foster care community altogether?
It's been hard. Always there's been two parents of my friend group has always been typically two parents. However, on Facebook and through Foster Source, I've met a lot of single foster parents, and we have created kind of a group where you can just put it out there on the Facebook page and say, has anyone heard of this, or has anyone struggled with this, or even just a rant of, oh my gosh, this is what is happening today. And it's a really safe spot to say, yuck, this is what's going on. And then it's a really great place to get the, oh babe, you are not alone. Girl, I did this yesterday, or let me tell you about this.
Totally. Totally. That's a big part of it sometimes is feeling like we're the only one who feels overwhelmed or who feels like we could be doing better. And the truth is, all foster parents feel that way. Are you able to ever get any respite?
Yes. And I have friends in my life that hold me accountable to that, because let me just tell you, my name is April and I can handle anything and everything. And I need accountability to take that self-care. And so based on our family therapist, it is, I will be taking respite every 4 to 6 weeks. And so thankfully I've got that accountability. But one of the really cool things is I was able to fill out the form for foster care, foster source for respite needed. And I was able to secure it within 2 weekends. That was amazing. And so that, I don't know that I gave you that feedback yet, Renee, but that was amazing.
Good. Foster parents are always willing to help other foster parents. And I want to give April another quick shout out here because she was actually our volunteer of the year for 2020, which is supposed to be people outside of foster care helping us with our programs and helping us serve foster parents. And in fact, it was April, a foster parent who was constantly also serving her other foster parents. So I'm just so glad to know you. John, we've known you and your family for quite a while, several years at Foster Source, and your initial intent was to grow your family through adoption. Tell us a little bit about that.
So my wife and I wanted to have biological children, and both of us were told, no, there's some obstacles with that, and we cried a lot, sat down, said, okay, what do we want to do? And I've said, well, I've known foster families And all the fertility stuff we have to go through, why not take that energy and help kids who are already here? And there's lots of kids who need adoption. And she was going through like the Wednesday's Child and websites like, look at these kids, look at these kids who need a home, and we are a home that doesn't have any kids in it. We could have kids here. And so, okay, let's start going to information nights. And we got certified and learned about foster to adopt. Okay, adopt out of the foster care system instead of a domestic infant adoption. It's a lot faster because there's not as many people, not as many families doing that. And there's a lot of kids who need it. Oh, okay. Well, we sign up for that. We start talking with some social workers about one, and then we get an emergency placement, first day in care, and all the plan goes out the window. And you're never prepared enough. We tried, but you're never prepared enough. But they get there, and it's like this is our whole world. Our world's changed, and this little one needs us. And it was just instantly, yeah, this kid should that they're our family now, and we'll do everything we can to take care of her. And so she stayed with us through her case. Parental rights were terminated, and then we finalized her adoption, and still here. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. It's really a roller coaster ride of emotions. And I think that's some of the misconceptions that people can have about adopting from foster care. Is it possible? Yes. Is it the number one goal? No. And that's what people really, I feel like, need to understand going into foster care, being open to adopt. What other misconceptions do you think people might have about adopting from foster care?
The one you mentioned, that, well, what's the first goal? It'll always be, pretty much until the day their adoption is finalized, reunify with parent. If there's some road back to that, even if it seems like it's a really crazy twisty road, that's the road that's going to get first priority, and can we get there? But these kids need a backup plan. They can't be left hanging if that falls through. Someone needs to be there to take care of them, and that's what foster care, a foster parent is for, to make sure that they're not left alone with nobody who cares about them. So that misconception of, no, this isn't about adoption. This is about the kid and what do they need. And it would be really great for the kid if their original home and original biological parents would be a good and safe place for them. And that's hard to deal with. Also, misconception that they gave us this nice timeline. We had these papers we were given in training, and we had those in front of us during this meeting with social workers. So where are we? We're here. That's not even on the map. What does that mean? The map, it's not really there. Every case is different. We got tired of hearing that, but it is true that no two flow exactly the same way. And so it's not, there's a set path. It's, you're here with this kid through whatever happens. There'll be good things, there'll be bad things, and just being there regardless of it. And if you stick it out for them, you're going to help them, and it's going to be a big positive impact in their life. Another one we've kind of got some from family and friends. Our daughter came to us when she was pretty young, and she got adopted pretty young. And think, well, so yeah, any bad stuff that happened really, really early on, that's gone into the past. And no, it's not. And okay, it's adoption day. Great. Everything's great now, right? Forever and ever? No. it's going to be okay. We've had bad weeks, bad years, but we're still okay.
Absolutely. I think two really important points that you made are number one, the body keeps the score. Abuse and neglect start prenatally, and also that finalization. Nothing really changed. Of course, a lot changes with finalization, but trauma-wise, the trauma continues, and it will be something that most of our kids will manage their whole life. To kind of finish out your story here, John, you guys adopted and then kept fostering. What made you want to continue to foster?
Um, yeah, we didn't know how much was out there. We didn't know how much need was out there. At the time, we lived really close to Jefferson County Human Services. We'd drive past it to the grocery store and talking to the social worker. I said, oh, if you drive past, late at night, building should be closed, and you see cars there. Well, we couldn't find a placement for a kid. There's a kid sleeping in one of the offices or one of the visiting rooms in there right now, and there's a social worker staying there to keep an eye on them. There's no home for them. And that broke our hearts. Like, how in the world is there no one there sleeping on the floor of an office? We can't hear that and do nothing.
Thank you for sharing your story, John. Manuel, you came into foster care in a completely different way. Can you share a little bit about your story and maybe tell us a little bit what kinship means?
Absolutely. Well, kinship is basically anybody who's connected to children who are being taken away from the bio parents. So kinship can be a teacher, a friend, a best friend, a neighbor who has a connection with the kids. So I had received a phone call saying from a sibling of mine saying they took my kids away, will you please get them? And I said, yes, where do I gotta go? And it was 5 kids, 5 kids with the oldest one having a baby. It was really tough to handle, because I've been over their house so many times, I didn't realize what was being hidden from me and as a brother. And about 2 weeks later, I got another phone call saying they took all my kids, and there was 7. I had a total of 11 kids in my home for about a month, and then it went down to 9. 1 aged out of the system immediately because it was within their time frame of their of how it happened. Then I went down to 7, and I had about 7 of them for a year and a half. Court's starting to get pretty tough on a few things, and some parents' rights were terminated. I've always I didn't know how to handle that. It was really, really tough, but also I had our age group of 6, 7, 9, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17-year-old. And all I knew was to show up. And that's was an important thing. And it was a tough thing to do, but I made it happen.
Manuel, while you were providing kinship care all of those years, you decided to take the classes and certify as a foster parent. What made you want to do that? Because kinship providers aren't required to do that. Tell us why you decided to certify.
I decided to certify because, number one, this has been a passion for me ever since I was a young kid. I want to own a home for 15 kids or more. I at least got 9 at one time, but I was close. But I always knew that I wanted to work in the LGBT community with any LGBT. There's so much youth. I am an openly gay male, and so I understand a lot of their backgrounds, and I don't try to say that I understand them because I don't on that. I can just relate with my personal experience and to be able to have an understanding to help them move forward in theirs.
You You have also been very passionate about children in care who are transitioning, and it's as part of the LGBT community, it's so important for children to see themselves represented, right? Which makes you such an incredible foster parent. What are some of the challenges you've faced as you care for children who are transgender?
Biggest challenges is bio parents not having an understanding about it, not being educated, is really the biggest one there. You know, the bio parents still normally have medical decision making, even though the kids are in a home, and it doesn't allow them the opportunity to start with their transition. Um, Simple things as taking a medication to stop a menstrual period, or
Mhm.
or a name change when that availability there, or even having the opportunity of even giving them their proper pronouns of who they
Yeah.
are.
Yes, and besides that, we all know how prevalent secondary trauma and compassion fatigue is with foster parents. How are you finding support, Manuel? You're also a single foster parent, I should say, as well. How are you finding support?
Yes, I am a single foster parent as well. I am grateful to Foster Source. I love you, Renee. But big thing is being able to connect with other foster parents. Um, Foster Source puts on an amazing um, contribution of, there used to be an LGBT group that we used to get together, be able to talk about our children a little bit, and this child transitioning and at this age, and how do we support each other in that, and what doctors did you use, and that type of stuff, and having those groups are huge. But not just that, each one of us, that I hugely important is that self-care. um I get to see a therapist. Foster Sources allowed me that opportunity to be able to work on myself, to be able to talk about my things that I need to talk about, and like my frustrations.
During the pandemic, especially, I want to shout out the Colorado State Foster Parent Association because they have a separate Facebook group for foster parents. And so does Share Fostering Colorado, which is an initiative of fostering great ideas. They also have a separate group for foster parents in Colorado. And they're both just incredible ways for foster parents to connect and find support and just sometimes just that validation. Um, it has been such a pleasure talking to all four of you. I'd like you to all four answer one last question quickly, if you could. I'd like to know what you've learned about yourself from being a foster parent. Gwen, what would you say?
That's changed throughout the years. Where it started at was definitely changing in my judgments of other people's lifestyles and what I saw from the outside looking in about the kids and what they came from, and understanding generational trauma and generational abuse and what that looked like for a lot of these parents, and where it's changed now. And what I wish I could convey to anyone who's interested is, don't tell my kids that they're lucky to have us. Don't tell them that they're lucky that we picked up all their trauma and pieced it together for them. Because really, at the end of the day, as everybody here has touched upon, like, it took, basically what everybody's touched upon is, like, it took my whole life and it broke everything apart and it built something else in its place that I'll never be able to manifest in any other direction. Like, it broke our marriage. We rebuilt it. It's broken everything. And what we have now, I'm so amazed by, because these kids' trauma has triggered my own background trauma. And like Manuel said, with his background, as far as coming to the table with that, I have, my own background of trauma that I just buried down. And now I'm having to work with therapists with my kids to meet them and not be triggered by their responses to trauma. So that would be what I've learned, that's been the most important at this point in my life, is that these kids' stories and their backgrounds and what we go through when we walk this walk with these kids is that it has made me the person that I wanted to be 20 years ago, and I get to be now because I'm working through it.
I love that. Thank you, Gwen. April, what have you learned?
I think I've learned that I really enjoy control. And I think I knew that beforehand. However, as a single person and of having lived this long of my life as a single person, I could do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. If I wanted to take a drive and come in at 3 o'clock in the morning, by golly, that was fine. Not so much now. And the things that I used to be able to do when I wanted to is not, it's not in the best interest of anybody at this point in time. And so the control, really, you have to let go of that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. John, what have you learned about yourself?
I have learned being a single kid without many people my age in my family. I absolutely love kids. I'm kind of baby crazy, and I've loved getting to work with little kids, and I've been scared of it, thinking, okay, this is going to change my life. This is going to be real hard. I might not be happy with this, and yeah, it changes my life. It totally did. It was really hard, and I don't care. Taking care of kids is such a wonderful thing, and they give back and love back so easily. And learn that, okay, I want to help more and take care of more because there's more that need it. And then there's lots of other foster parents who need someone to talk to listen to help and do respite, which we got to do once, and I'm hoping we get to do more at that. I really want to do that. It's a calling that I didn't know I had until I tried it.
Yeah. I know. Don't you guys wonder sometimes, what did we do with all of our free time before this?
Yes, I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea because
crazy. Manuel, what have you learned about yourself? I know you've had tons of lessons over the years.
I've had plenty, and one of the biggest ones is the amount of patience. I want to say is immaculate. I know at one time, I know a lot of people, and I have to piggyback on a few things. Just Gwen talking about our kids and saying how lucky we are and different things like that. I feel like I'm the lucky one. Absolutely. Like, I am thankful, honored, grateful for the opportunity that they get to come into a home and feel like it's a home. And then I took 10 kids to Disneyland in a van, and everybody was like, "You're out of your mind. You're insane. Oh my goodness." But the patience that it just takes just with them and just spending that moment with them. My greatest joy was the first time I got to see them see a beach. And it just to see them, I have a little video. It's one of the most amazing things. And, we do go back into that part of why am I here? But I play that little video all over again. And I'm like, this is why I'm here. Because seeing my 6-year-old jump up and down like crazy, run into the water, running when a wave comes back.
Yeah. Well, I am so incredibly grateful for all four of you. I'm proud to know each one of you. You're incredible folks. I know we as foster parents, we always say we're ordinary people doing extraordinary work, and I think that's really one of the best ways to describe it. Thank you all for the hard work that you do. I want to thank CDHS once again for the opportunity to partner with them on the arena. This has been really, really fun. Thank you all for being on this panel. And I think, Manuel, I think you said it perfectly. If you're watching this and you're considering being a foster parent, reach out. Reach out. You are needed. Thank you all.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you,
Thank
CDHS.
you.